So I thought it might be interesting to share with you my publishing journey and my publishing timeline. I've been writing for a really long time, and earlier this year, I actually got my very first book deal. I'm getting published in spring of 2024 by Peachtree Teen. Peachtree Teen is an awesome publisher. This is one of their books, The Hell Followed With Us. This was actually a New York Times bestselling book, and very, very excited about being with such an amazing publisher. And they're also distributed by Penguin Random House, so they have a really amazing distribution team. So my publishing journey really started off with a query letter way back almost 11 years ago today. This was December 26, 2011. A query letter is a letter that you send off to a literary agent to try to entice them to read your book. Think of like, the flap of a book that tells you, a little bit about it and is trying to get you to buy it. With the reality is in publishing is that there are only so many slots that are available each year, and there are a lot of people who are fighting over those slots. And so it's very, very difficult to get a literary agent. If you want to get traditionally published, generally you are going to need a literary agent. I wasn't interested in self-publishing. I was always interested in traditional publishing, and I was going to do it no matter what. And I think that's kind of what you have to do. If you want to get traditionally published, you just got to keep pushing through it. So I sent that out on December 26, 2011 with the hope and the expectation that I wouldn't get a response that day because I wanted to come to terms with the idea of sending out my book and not having to worry about getting a rejection right away. It was the day after Christmas, and so I thought that all of these agents would be on vacation. That was not the case. An hour later, I got a rejection, and that one really stung. So with my journey, I actually wrote 7 books between the years of 2009 and 2020. I've actually written 2 more since. I just barely finished my 9th book, and hopefully I can talk more about my 9th book in the future. Follow me, and maybe I'll end up talking about it next year. So I'm hoping I have good news. We'll see. So I received an offer of representation from an agent. This is when an agent offers to represent you. Now, getting a literary agent, it's not like getting a real estate agent. Like getting a real estate agent, you just call them up and they're like, oh, yeah, let's go look at some houses together, right? That's not what it's like in trying to get a literary agent. I was rejected hundreds of times over 6 books trying to get a literary agent. It was just absolutely just atrociously brutal. And on March 31st of 2020, just a couple weeks after my state started shutting down for COVID, I actually got an offer from a literary agent. She emailed me a couple days before then at midnight telling me she couldn't stop thinking about my books, wanted to see what publishing doors we could burn down together, and wanted to see if we could chat. And so we ended up having a Zoom chat on March 31st, 2020, and she officially offered to become my literary agent. Now, I didn't accept immediately because, it's common courtesy in the industry to not immediately accept an offer. Also, you don't want to burn bridges with potential other literary agents in the future because who knows what the future holds. And so I made sure to contact each of my other agents who had my material and gave them 2 weeks. And it was a whirlwind of 2 weeks where I was getting responses that used to take agents 6 months to respond to me. They were responding in minutes. But I really felt comfortable with my first agent, with her offer. And I really, after that first weekend, I kind of thought that she was the one. So I ended up signing with her in the middle of April. We announced on Twitter, which was a really exciting day. And I just couldn't believe that it actually had happened to me, that I was an agented author, and it was so exciting. Now, when I signed with my agent, we decided that my 7th book was the one that was best for publishers. And so we sent my 7th book out to publishers late summer 2020, early fall 2020. And unfortunately, the book didn't get any bites from publishers. And that's just kind of something that happens. I think it is a fantastic book, and I love the book so much. So we're not going to give up on it, even though it's been a couple years. We're just hoping we find that one person who connects with it and sees what we see in it. But anyway, so it had no bites, and so I decided to go back to my 6th book. And I started revising my 6th book actually 2 years ago, and in December of 2020. The revisions took me, they were pretty hardy revisions. These were revisions that I got from my agent, and so they took me a little bit of time. It took me about 5 months to complete them. And then I went back with a couple minor rounds with my agent. And so then finally on August 24th of 2021, we sent Sky's End out to publishers. We got a rejection like right away. And that actually was like a good sign. If you get a rejection right away from publishers, like even though it stings, it can be a good sign because it means somebody liked the pitch and was immediately jumping in to read it. And they actually had some really nice things to say, which made me really excited and made me think it was going to happen right away. That wasn't the case. I didn't hear anything outside of those first couple rejections. I didn't hear anything again until January 18th of this year. And I had just emailed my agent to congratulate her on this major book deal she just orchestrated for one of her other clients. And it was this big 6-figure deal. And I was like, hey, congratulations. She's like, oh yeah, thanks. By the way. And she told me that a publisher was like potentially interested, that they were asking if Sky's End was still available. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. Why would they ask that? Of course it's still available, you know? And she's like, no, Mark, this is a good sign. This means that they're interested. They're probably loving what they're reading and considering buying it. And I was like, oh. And so it was like this really exciting sort of moment for me. And then I thought it was going to be this long wait again. I've heard of people who were saying that they had to go on these long waits. Fortunately for me, it was only a week later on January 25th. It was a day I'll never forget. It happened in my 7th period class in front of my students that I got an offer for Sky's End from Peachtree Teen. And so now Sky's End is getting published sometime early in 2024. And please follow me for more on that respect, because I'll be talking about Sky's End quite a bit in 2023. There's going to be lots of awesome reveals about the book, cover, even just like the typeset and things like that. Like what kind of are there going to be images on the chapter titles, all of that. So it's going to be really an exciting year. Just like when I signed with my agent, we did need to make sure that all the other publishers had an opportunity to respond. And I accepted the offer on February. We accepted the offer though with Peachtree Teen on February 3rd, which was a really exciting day. And it was kind of cool because, I was even getting like some rejections in here and some passes. And there was one editor at this major publisher who passed and ultimately said that they didn't have any room for any more fantasy because they already filled their quota, so to speak. And so they knew immediately once they started reading my book that they couldn't take it, but they still read it anyway, just because they just liked it, which was just such a highly complimentary to me. They just read it because they just liked it. Then we went through contract negotiations. Those weren't too bad. There wasn't any like major things. It's just in publishing that it feels like there's one person who's doing the job of 3 people. And so sometimes it takes a while. We went through contract negotiations over several months. But we announced my book on April 8th of 2022 on Publishers Weekly, which was so surreal because then my book was officially on Publishers Weekly with all these like really awesome authors, and my face was on there and the announcement language for my book. It was a really proud day. After that, I've done my edits. I did my first round of edits. I got those in June from my developmental editor at Peachtree Teen, Jonah Heller. And then I got my round, I finished those in the middle of July, got my round 2 ones at the end of August, finished those in the middle of September. Those ones were even more minor. And then I got my copy edits in November 14th. And I actually just returned my copy edits back to my editor just 2 days ago on December 15th. Which means that next we're going to be moving into like sort of the typeset, potentially proofreader, but most likely typeset. And we're going to be getting ready for advanced readers copies, which is going to be amazing because my book's going to be out there. It'll be on NetGalley. It'll be on places where people can request it, to read it, to review it, and to hopefully build up buzz. If you haven't already, my journey, I'm grateful to have shared it with you. If you haven't already, if you're excited about my book, Sky's End, it's young adult fantasy. It's set on floating islands in the sky. Think Hunger Games, but in the sky, deadly competition with sky ships, treacherous crews, all fighting to become captain. And simultaneously, they are hunting gigantic, like 600-foot sky serpents. It's a really awesome book. My editor calls it Hunger Games meets Attack on Titan. If you haven't already, go onto my profile, add the book to your Goodreads, and help me build up buzz for the book. I'm so proud that I'm getting published, and I'm happy to have shared a little bit of my journey with you. And I wish you all the best on your journeys, and hope that you can find yourself a literary agent, get yourself published, or if you decide to go with the self-publishing, I hope that you're successful in that avenue as well. Thanks for watching.